Okay, well, I think most of you know that I'm studying Rufous Scrub-birds with a lot of people helping. Very difficult bird to study, but I think that we are making some headway every now and again. Feel like make a bit of progress. And tonight I'm going to let you in on some secrets about scrub-birds that we've discovered in the last couple of years. One secret that I won't be letting you in on, because I don't know the answer, is how does Alan Richardson manage to get such fantastic photos of Rufous Scrub-birds? Beats me, but he really knows how to do that. And that is a male Rufous Scrub-bird. Okay, tonight's talk is a bits and pieces talk. So rather than drilling deep into something, I'm going to give overviews of a few different areas where we're working. A lot of work on recording scrub-birds, general studies, some videos that I'm going to show you tonight that I think might knock the socks off. Pretty good. And I'll finish up just talking about some of the secrets we haven't managed to crack yet. Another male Rufous Scrub-bird in the photo here calling, and a photo of the typical habitat where they are found in the Gloucester tops. So they're not a rainforest bird, they're a bird of the dry woodlands. Up there, it's usually bordering with the Antarctic beach just nearby, and often small beach saplings popping up, but it's open woodland with lots of lamandra and other grasses, fallen logs, and lots of things for scrubbers to scurry underneath or around. So start off just talking a little bit about recording. So I've actually, there are two activities here. One is to understand about the singing behaviour by male Rufous Scrub-birds. Our main method for surveying them is to listen to males singing. So it's important to actually understand more about that behaviour. We do that by using things called song meters, or other remote acoustic devices, but song meters is what I'm using. For the singing behaviour studies, I place a song meter, like this one here, into a scrub-bird's territory, leave it there for a week or so, usually leave it along with the batteries only last a week, and then over time build up a data set that can be analysed. But I've also got a study where I'm working with some researchers at ANU. We want to see whether we can identify individual scrub-birds by their call, because that would be just a wonderful breakthrough if that could be done. It's probably going to be very difficult, but anyhow, to do that, I walk around in the bush with a handheld song meter, trying to get within a couple of meters of scrub-bird and make some recordings. And I've managed in this most recent season to record 17 individual males. Getting a nice little data set for that too. So in terms of the singing behaviour, we've now got a lot of data and looking at data for 5 different scrub-birds, 5 to 3 for a week or so at a time, but that's been over many, many times. So there's actually internet connection unstable, that doesn't sound good. There are about 550 data days shown in this graph, and it's a plot basically of month by month, the number of calls per day that scrub-birds make. Now, without trying to fix these boxes where the bulk of the data are distributed, the cross is the average of all the results, the horizontal bar is the median, and most of the results lie within the rectangle, and then there's some outliers to 1.5 standard deviations beyond that. That's all complicated. The point is that we can group them, and you can see a pretty clear pattern here where in January, and then these months over here, the birds are making a lot more calls than they are at other times of the year. There is a lot of variability day to day amongst it all, and one of the things we've learned is that any day can be a good day to go out and hear a scrub-bird. Any day can be a bad day, but there's more often to be bad days in this February to August period. Looking more closely at the data, and September's got a lot of spread there. There's some results actually that are for early September. So when I took them out of the equation and grouped them into February through mid-September data set versus mid-September through to January, we can see there is a very clear difference, very statistically significant difference in the number of calls that a bird makes in the singing period, mid-September onwards, which is what we believe is the breeding season, and it drops right away from February onwards. So now is a pretty bad time to be up trying to find a scrub bird because you just chances are they won't sing. At any one day, though, we can get a lot of activity, but what tends to happen in this period from February onwards is a bird might call for a 20 or 30-minute period where it does a lot of calls, and then it'll go quiet for hours and hours. Very unpredictable as to what time of day that will happen. So bottom line is, if you want to find scrub birds from mid-September onwards is the best time to do it. Significant changes. The number of calls per day increases, but so too does the number of 20-minute periods with activity. So I said before that they can shut down for long periods of time, but from mid-September onwards, that shutting down doesn't happen anywhere near as much. So you might have 80 or 90% of the day a bird is singing, whereas when you get over into from February onwards, you might only have 10 or 20% of the duration of the day where the bird calls. So in terms of when you're organising to do surveys, it'll be folly to be trying to do one from February onwards. Okay, this is probably enough on that one. Now, walking around with this song meter, one of the things that's intriguing, so I mainly want to have been wanting to record the chipping song, which is the characteristic song of the male scrub bird. We'll hear some chipping songs shortly, but I find that I am up close and fairly personal with scrub birds and getting a lot of other calls. I'm out there. I know it's a scrub bird because I've just been seeing it or just hearing it through the other calls. They make an enormous variety of calls. What I am going to play here now, I've just strung together a series of different calls from male scrub birds. It's not all the same scrub bird. It's I've just basically grabbed some different examples. It's not comprehensive. I just threw this together with a few examples, and I'm going to play this very shortly. For best results at home, turn your speakers up as loud as possible. Like good rock and roll, it's got to be really loud to enjoy a scrub bird. And we're going to start off with chipping calls, and then we'll get into a variety of other things. I'm not going to give commentary as we go through, other than to say that in amongst their calls, there are calls that sound like other birds, so you can say it's mimicry, or certainly sounds like sort of stuff. So part of what your challenge as you listen will be to work out what some of the other birds might be. Start with the chipping call. They actually vary this, so it can be from a couple of chips up to about eight or so in the Gloucester tops. So we'll start with chippings and then we'll move to other things. Listen. That's a real robin. Okay, fantastic variety, and there are plenty more of different sort of things that they make. It's just amazing to be out in the bush listening to a scrub-bird going through some of those things. Okay, now, so what I'm now also going to play is a call of a female scrub-bird, which I'm not sure that it's ever been recorded before. Certainly no one's ever said that they've recorded a female. This is very faint, so you'll have to listen very carefully to hear it. I was in a territory recording a male scrub-bird. It was about 5 or 6 metres from me at the time, and then all of a sudden, about 1.5 metres in front of me, this other bird started up and made these calls that I'm going to play. I never ever saw her, and when you hear how faint it is, just remember that I was only about 1.5 metres from this bird as she was calling. Okay. I think we're finished now. So very, very soft. If you weren't standing on top of that bird, you wouldn't even hear it. Very quiet. And it's right in the middle of the male territory, and something we've been learning from other studies is that the female does seem to be within the male's territory. Well, it was in the territory, yeah. Yeah, it's either female or a young male. To be honest, I don't really know for sure. But okay, now we go on to scrub-bird studies. There's a population trend that I'll show you. I'll talk about how we have been catching scrub-birds. Part of the study is that we catch and ban some scrub-birds and eventually start radio tracking them, plus colour banding the birds. So population trend, first of all, so those of you who have participated in the annual spring surveys, which have been going since 2010, thanks to everybody, it's been 30 or 40 people have assisted with those studies. This is a graph that I published in a paper in Whistler last year showing territory density. So because it's a volunteer effort, we don't always manage to cover the same transects every year. I've turned it into a density measurement based on how many kilometres we walk each time. And you can see it's been a pretty dismal decline in territories over the 10 years of the survey since we started. It's a little bit distorted by 2 very good years in 2010 and 2011, but even if you took those out, you're still looking at a slope that is pretty well going downwards all the time. A lot of that is associated with the drought that we've been having over all that time, and basically every year there's just fewer territories. Territories have just been disappearing. Down to 2019, the result was less than half of the 2010, 2011 territory density. However, 2020, it started to rain in what it was February or March, and it rained a fair bit. And in particular, spring was wet, and it's spring conditions that really define the breeding activity and whether males are calling and whether we can find them. So how do we go in 2020 after a wet year? Pretty good. So Certainly picked up from the previous 3 years. It's still below what it was in the bulk of times of the surveys, but there's a 20 or 25% increase in the number of territories last year, and that's good. It's still raining, so I'm really hopeful that 2021 will be we'll see an even better pick up in the numbers. I guess we'll find that out in October when we do the surveys. Anybody is welcome to come and help with those surveys. It's a great way to learn about scrubbirds by coming along and helping. Okay, so part of the focus for the past couple of years has been to catch scrubbirds and to be able to ultimately be able to radio track some, because one of the things about scrubbirds is when a bird is calling, we know exactly where it is, but when it's not calling, we wouldn't have the faintest idea where it is. And we know that the singing area is quite small, it's about 1 to 1.5 hectares, but do they actually have a larger territory than that? Do they go wandering further around? It's important to know that because for conservation, that's the area that you have to conserve, not the little area where the birds are singing. It may well be that they're the same thing, that the territory is the same as the singing area, but we just don't know. So I guess I threw out a challenge to Rob Kite to how can we catch some scrubbirds, Rob? And we have been having some success using a system it's called an inverted T-net. It's actually not a net at all, it's a trap. I'll show you a video shortly of how it operates. It's developed for the noisy scrubbirds. Now, the problem is scrubbirds don't fly. Some people say they do, but they don't. They just glide a bit, really. They can't get caught in a conventional mist net because they just don't fly into one. They mostly run on the ground. If you put a net somewhere, the ground, see the net, put the head against it, and then turn around and walk off. Here, here it is in a picture of it as well. But basically, it's a net that's about 1 metre high, 2 shelves, no pockets. There is a hole on either side of it, laid out on a mat. So there's a mat to keep all the leaves and things off. Section to the net. You have 2 operators. So there's someone operating a call playback system. We have a system, very sophisticated one that Rolly Smith built for us, with 2 speakers, one either side of the net, and the ability to flip from whichever speaker you wish. So basically, if the scrubbirds are one side of the net, then you play the speaker at the other side to try and entice it towards the net. And there's a second operator at the other end who's got 2 drawstrings. When the bird steps onto the horizontal section, pull the drawstrings, and the horizontal bits go up, and the bird gets caught in between, and that's how we can catch a scrubbird. It works. Now, so what I'm now going to do is show you that. If I can work out how to do that. Kill that. I don't want to stop sharing. Kill that was. Where's your? Here we go. Here we go. Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this video here is going to show the net layout. So in Rob and Rachel's backyard. So you can see the horizontal section, the vertical section with it's a 2-shelf net without pockets basically. And you can see this little black line here. That's the horizontal part of the net basically. It's resting on a mat. Yep. Okay, so that's that. And now we've got this high quality acting job here. So Rob's holding the drawstrings and he's looking very intently, which is what you have to do if you're operating this net. Because if the scrubbird comes in, you might only have a second or 2 before it goes away again. Rachel's going to throw a net and pulls it, and the net becomes, the 2 horizontal bits become vertical, and you've trapped the your scrubbird. You haven't actually tracked the scrubbird in the sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop that. You haven't actually trapped it. What we see is the bird is actually run up and down inside that section of the net. So it's not trapped, but it's like stuck. Okay. And then the call playback person has to race out and grab the bird to then. It can't get out of the ends of it. Well, it could. Okay, so we want to put trackers on. So we've actually had 2 attempts of that. This is photos of the first attempt. We had a bird. Here it is, Greg holding it with a transmitter on its back. About 30 seconds afterwards, this is what happened. It did a sort of shoulder shrugging exercise, which we've now learned that scrubbirds do quite often, and it all popped off. And so we released that bird without a tracker. But then in September last year, we managed to catch another bird and we attached the transmitter to that. It only worked for 2 days and then stopped working. So we didn't get very much data at all. And what actually happened in those 2 days is the scrubbird, number one, it was calling almost all the time, so we knew where it was just about the whole time. But it never left a sort of patch of ferns that it likes. So the transmitter didn't really give us a lot of useful data. However, we'll be persevering with that. But one of the things we have been doing, so we've caught 3 males, they've been banded and also colour banded, and we've also recorded a whole lot of biometric data, which is all new stuff for the Gloucester tops. And one of the things we ummed and ahed about whether we would use colour banding, whether it would actually help or not, but that's proved to be really useful because you can't always obviously see a scrubbird well, you can't always see its legs, but you can see often enough that you can actually get records of a scrubbird. Here's a photo I took of one. You can see a yellow band on its leg quite clearly. So we know that bird, which was one that we caught in September 2018, it is now, and it was identified as an adult male, so 2+ years old at the time. We know that bird is still there in its territory. This is actually was photographed about 30 metres from where we caught it, and it is now a 4+ year old bird. And hopefully we'll get ongoing sightings and learn more about how long scrubbirds live for. No one has the faintest idea at the moment how long a scrubbird lives. And I guess I know many of you sometimes go up to Gloucester tops and try to see a scrubbird. So I've got 3 videos that I'm hopefully going to show you. That's the third one that's actually the best one. So this is, so we've got, as part of the problem with the transmitter that stopped working, we wanted to be sure that the bird that we knew was still there was actually the bird that we put the transmitter on, and put a band on. So we started putting some trail cameras in that territory. Ended up with a peak of 13 cameras, back down to 4 cameras now. And from time to time, we've got some interesting images. I'm going to scroll through hopefully 3 of them. Now, so this video lasts for about 20 seconds, but it's only about 4 or so seconds with a scrubbird. So in the middle of the screen here, you can see a scrubbird. So what I'm going to do is just firstly just scroll through it very slowly, and you can start to see some things happening. So this bird firstly moves, it's moving along the branch by doing a little hop, loses its balance, and one of the things it does is it bends its tail around, and we're seeing that as a very characteristic thing that scrubbirds do, presumably as a balancing thing to regain their balance. So it moves along, now it's going to go up, and it takes actually a big stride this time up the branch. So the first movements were hops, now it's doing a stride, gets its balance, bends its tail around again as it regains its balance on the branch, and then finally moves off screen, and that's the end of the thing. So I'll just go through that again slowly. It's there, it does a little hop, gets its balance, and then does a big stride. You can see two legs here are well separated as it moves forward, and then moves out of screen with a little bit more regaining its balance. Okay, pretty interesting to see a scrub-bird moving around like that. But very interesting other observation is, if you look at I've looked at these videos many times, I'll tell you. You see here, this bird has a band on its leg. And you can see that image here as well. You can see the band. It's a pink band. Well, it's black and white on the screen, but it's a pink band. We know this is the male scrub-bird, and this image was taken about 2.5 months after we caught the bird and banded it. Still East Territory. There's no sign of a transmitter. I don't know what he's done with that. Gloucester. We name our scrub-birds, and this one's been named Harry, after Harry Houdini, shaping straight jackets and all that kind of thing. Okay, that's a scrub-bird. Now I want to go to the next video. Again, just going to toggle through this. So we're starting off here, and in the middle, very blurry, is a scrub-bird. Now it's just turning so it's front onto the camera. Does a little, what I call a launch. See how it just suddenly launches, and it actually spreads its wings out a bit. I know it's very blurry, but that's what it's done. And it's launched and gone off screen. This, by the way, is the exact same camera as the previous video. It's taken the day after. The bird's now disappeared for a while, but we just come through. It's probably that bird moved through just then, but we can't be sure. Through, and then somewhere around here it makes a reappearance. Here it is, right? So it sort of glides in, so it's not actually flapping its wings, it's just gliding, and it comes in. Hands on the branch, see it's, and then it hops up higher and eventually moves out of screen. Okay, so there's a scrub-bird coming through. Now, I'm going to play that in normal speed very shortly, but have a very close look at this bird. It's the same camera, the exact same position as from the previous day's thing. This bird has no band on it. Right, it is a different scrub-bird to the one that we just looked at. And goes away, and then presumably the same bird, can't really tell for sure, a band on that bird. So we have got two scrub-birds in the same territory, occupying the same camera space, a day apart, and that's presumably the female or a immature male bird. Sorry. Yeah, that doesn't mean a lot. Young males don't have much dark on the breast. Females don't, but older females, I've looked at skins in the museum, they're labelled as females and they were taxidermied, so they knew what they were looking at, and some of those females look like males. Okay, so we'll play this now in real time. A presumed female scrub-bird hopping around in the territory. Some little clicks that you hear sometimes too. They're presumably scrub-birds making little noises. Okay, so I thought that was pretty exciting. The fact that we've got two birds in the one territory, that's something that's like kind of certainly was new to me. Now I've got to get this up again somehow or other and get the third one. So if you think two scrub-birds is good, so we'll just pause this and go and just toggle through it. So there's a scrub-bird here in the middle of the screen, very blurry. Starts off, and then it's moving off screen up to the left, goes up, and then decides to come back down again for a while. One of the things it's just doing here is a little bit of that wing shuffle thing that I talked about, how they get rid of transmitters off their back. Doing that there as well. So there it is there, a better image of that little wing raise thing. And this bird hops down, moves around a bit, decides to exit the scene. We persevere, you start to see something just in the very upper left of the screen here, some movement. What is that? That is another scrub bird, and something coming in the bottom. That's definitely a scrub bird now. You can see the characteristic head shape. It's now leaning forward and looking down. Now comes a second scrub bird. It's pretty exciting. This bird drops down, moves around, actually looking around, and then in comes the third scrub bird. So we've got 3 scrub birds in the one image. That's pretty exciting. I was excited. Now, what's going to happen next? What could be more exciting? Well, no, it won't be 4, but just watch these 2 birds here at the bottom, and they get closer, and the bird on the left feeds the bird on the right. So what we're actually looking at there is an adult, presumed female, and 2 juvenile scrub birds. So now she starts to move off. This young bird that just got fed decides better follow mum and might be more food. The other one comes in and has a bit of a look around, wondering what's going on, and then it's the end of that. So we just go through all that again, and then slowly, and then we'll go through at normal speed. So you actually, when you hear this, when it's playing live, this bird that's in screen now makes a little cluck on stage as well. All right, so one moving around. The second bird starts to appear, and then the third bird flies in, and we go. Now, I using my imagination. I know that probably it's wrong, but this bird here on the left, I think, is slightly larger than the other 2 birds, which would fit for being one of the adults, one of the parents. Okay, so we'll take that back now, and we'll see this all in real time. Listen for the little cluck that the top bird makes. Yep. Well, maybe, but they do that sort of wing flight. They seem to do that quite a lot. So I don't know. It may be. I don't know. Next year or yeah. Okay, so I'll just to wrap up, just reboot this, and we'll just go from here. Just had some thanks and acknowledgements basically to go through. Yeah, okay, so there's a few secrets, I guess, that we now know. We still have nothing at all about what's the territory size. We don't know how long a male holds a territory. It's pretty important from a conservation point of view as well. The longevity of a bird sets up all sorts of outcomes. We know still virtually nothing about the breeding biology. One female in territory, are there more than one? How do they dispose themselves around the male? We haven't found a nest. We found something that might be a nest that we're very interested in, but we haven't got confirmation that it's a nest yet. So we really know nothing about what they do. We have no idea what happens to the young birds and where they, how it works for them. If they disperse, where do they go? Because sometimes it's 500 metres or even more to the next scrub bird territory. So are they non-calling young birds through all there, or we just don't know. We don't know how they deal with predators. With all the videos, we're seeing cats and foxes and wolves all the time in these images, so it's a tough life there. So how do they handle all that? And can we identify individual birds? We can by catching them and putting bands on, but that's an extremely difficult thing to do, as we've been discovering. So we're looking for other ways to be able to tell birds apart. Okay, I want to thank lots of people. Margaret's helped with the song meter analysis, Rob and Greg and Judy, and sometimes some others have helped with the banding studies and general advice. Lots of people have helped with the surveys, club members and visitors. The National Parks people are very on board. A ranger there, Peter Beard, he's never actually seen a scrubbird, so he was delighted when he talks all those videos. Rolly helped us with some electronic things, and there's a lot of very expensive equipment that we're using in this study, and the Wilma Barton Memorial Grant has paid for some of that. Okay, thank you very much for listening.